Greetings, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us again on our third segment of the show today. I still want to understand why are they always giving me the gurus of the creative industry of Kwakwa? Like, I'm always giving the people that are actually making it big in this industry.
Yeah.
It's making me really nervous, but thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so
Please do
much.
introduce yourself.
I go by the name of Preacher Technic. I was born in Val, but I was raised in the eastern part of the Free State here, Putechava, River Park. So yeah, I'm a slam spoken word artist, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, that's me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. To reintroduce our guest, he's a poet, model, actor, and writer. I'm still in awe of how are you able to navigate through all of this.
I'm also a filmmaker, by the way,
Yeah,
an award-winning
right.
filmmaker. Yeah,
Exciting.
so I studied film. So when you're a filmmaker, you're being trained to take a whole lot of things and challenges.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
as a filmmaker, your work is to actually come with solutions. You know what I mean? So I manage to split myself into all those segments that you
4
have
segments,
mentioned.
by the way.
Being a model, being a poet, being an actor, and being a filmmaker at the same time. I mean, it's just those complete puzzles that cannot function without each other. You know what I mean? So I managed to do that in terms of we're living in a career's time right now. So
Yeah.
we just serve, we put everything on
Definitely,
the net. Like
yeah.
you don't have to like put more focus on one thing,
Yeah.
complete it and go send it
Diversity.
on a post like back
Exactly.
in the days and
Yeah,
wait for
sure.
like now you just use the power of the internet and be who you want to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Great work. And I want you to believe it. I want you to own the fact that you are part of the gurus of the creative industry
I
in our
accept
town.
it.
You
I
have to
accept
accept
it
that because you've been doing
graciously.
good for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, there was someone that was busy sharing your information on social media. That's how I got to know about you.
yeah.
And I feel like your work precedes you. They go before you, and that's why we are celebrating
Yeah,
you guys
thank
in
you
our
so
era.
much,
Very
man.
amazing.
Oh,
Now
yeah?
please tell us about the type of poetry you do.
Um, it has no type in a way, but
Right.
I'm a slam poet. I'm from a background where slam poetry is a very competitive form of poetry. You know what I mean? So I'm from a culture, signature poetry, where the culture is actually slam. You know, back in the days, we used to slam like the likes of Vike the King, the likes of Toxic, the likes of Flogs, Virus, Fifi, Mpokumani, like
Wow.
almost all the greatest
Yeah,
poets doing
true,
good
true.
for themselves right now, you
Yeah.
know. So there would be just one 500 rand, and then maybe you find poets that signed up are like 30.
Yeah.
So we all want that. We're gunning for that 500 rands, you know what I mean? So slam poetry teaches you to actually be competitive, not just how you slam, but be competitive in how you read, show your competition in how you actually perceive the message and how you actually transcend the message, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
be the enlightenment, you know, that people
Yeah.
actually seek through slamming, you know. So I'm a slam poet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're doing amazing work.
In a nutshell.
I want to do in a nutshell, definitely. And I want to go through this again. You are a model,
Yeah.
you're an actor, you are a poet, and a writer.
Yeah.
So all of this in one. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Yo, in 5 years' time,
Yeah, 2 questions, right?
yeah, that's a trick question because
It
you know
is.
there are some of the things that I can never really say, but I surely I know there will be a huge progress that I've
Definitely.
actually have completed within where I grew up. You know, there are some goals that I've set for myself. I actually said maybe in 2-3 years time, but some of them I've accomplished them right now.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
So I can never really say 5 years time I'll be whatever that I want to be. But we're gunning for money. We
hopeful.
want to get paid. We
Yeah.
want to get paid. 5 years time, I must actually be able to point an asset that I made from poetry.
Definitely.
I want to be able to have taking a girl child, a boy child to schools, you know what I mean? I want to pay their fees, you know. I want each and every child in Kwakwa to have access to the internet. So those are my goals as a person, you know what I mean? So in 5 years' time, I would have achieved a whole lot of things that maybe, right now I've been taking lightly, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. You spoke about finances. A lot of people that are very passionate about poetry. They want to get into the industry, but
Yeah.
they're not sure
Of the-
of how far can they go as far as
Yeah.
receiving.
Yeah. this is very relevant. This is what is happening. A friend of mine and a good business partner of mine, Flokes the Rebel, actually, he initiated a campaign called Pay the Poet. We're
Alright.
pushing it right now. It's actually going international this year.
Okay.
It's our third annual Pay the Poet. We just got an invite from the University of Minneapolis in the USA.
Wow,
So we'll be
congratulations.
leaving. Yeah, thank you so much. So we're leaving on August. We'll start slamming in the New York with Green Express Cafe.
Wow.
And then in September, we'll be at the Minneapolis where we'll actually be lecturing people on how we survive,
Yeah.
lecturing the internationals and how we survive and how we make money through poetry. So this is what is happening. Back when I was a teacher for arts and culture camps. There was a program called Arts in School. So in this program, I was a poet, but I was assigned to go teach theater. You know what I mean? So in theater, there will be genres specifically. Music, it's a genre. Dance, a genre. Drama, a genre. And
Yeah.
then there's theater that has poetry, and I'm like, you know what? And then why do we have to teach our kids that poetry is an extramural activity when
Exactly.
everything you read it's poetry?
Yeah.
You come across advertisements on TV, you come across taglines, you come across mottos.
Yeah,
It's us creatives, it's poetry, so it can never be an extramural activity. So we're trying to say, pay the poet. Stop saying a poet should check the sound. Pay the poet, and that's what is happening. So that these offsprings that are coming after us will actually realize, like, you know what?
They'll be feeding off from that.
Yeah, we should feed off that energy.
Yeah,
That we should
definitely.
actually give in what's this financial education to these kids that what poetry actually pays.
Yeah.
We're going international to get this money in pounds, this money in dollars, so that these
Definitely.
kids gets paid. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah, very good. Now, I want to come to, I think you've already covered a part of the impact that poetry has on society, on people that want to come into the industry. Can you elaborate on the factors that actually poetry have on people? What impact that does poetry have as far as the artistic part of entertainment is concerned?
Yeah. For you to be a good teacher, you must be able to recite well on your subject.
Definitely.
For you to be a good doctor, you must be able to recite your prescription
by
very
example.
well
Yeah.
to your patient. For
Yeah.
you to be a good lawyer, you must be able to recite well before the court of law. So poetry is everywhere. Like,
Right.
that's the impact. You live poetry, you're just turning a blind eye. Like, we are living poetry right now.
Definitely.
We speak in poetry.
Poetry.
They're listening to poetry. Subtitles are poetry. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So it's
Yeah.
poetry. That's the impact we have. No,
Yeah.
that's the impact. It's just the mouthpiece. It's an universal language. Through poetry, we get to express ourselves. Not all of us can get into a parliament and express and show our views, but through poetry,
Exactly.
that's the platform, the most beautiful platform you will ever get.
I agree.
Yeah, man. So
Definitely.
that's the factors of poetry. Like, it's very effective in a sense that it hits home.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
So yeah.
Poetry, I don't know if I'm being ignorant or I'm not well informed, but poetry hasn't, as far as I'm concerned, grown to a level around even around South Africa, to a level where we want it to go, right? So do you believe you have competition within the sphere?
Question is, where do we want poetry to go? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And who wants poetry to go there?
Probably the people that are
Yeah.
into poetry, they should be
Right.
recognized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we first start checking those people.
Okay.
Like, who are those? We want poets to get paid. We say
Hmm.
pay the poet. We don't say pay Slokes. We don't say pay Preacher. We don't say pay Virus. We
Hmm.
don't say pay Afura, whoever. We say pay the poet.
So you're saying there's no competition as far as the sphere of poetry in the artistic world is concerned?
Competition is everywhere, you know.
Alright.
Competition is everywhere, but right now, our standard of poetry, I think the competition is not that tight. You know what I mean?
Alright.
It's a market that is actually on and off mode for now. So what
Yeah.
we're trying to do is to actually, we must commercialize it. It's
definitely.
time. It's time we commercialize this thing. It's time we commercialize this poetry thing, and say, you know what, we want poets to eat. You know what I mean? So that's when we'll start having competition.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
that one poet that is needed. Maybe it's me, maybe it's Makafla Vilakazi, maybe it's whoever who's gonna do a certain poetry and the country will fall in love with it. I mean, the
Definitely.
country was once in love with Mzwaki Mbuli.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zimbuli Mbule.
And he was
but
great.
I know yeah, and then
Definitely is.
the country once fell in love with Ntiki Mazwai as well. You know what
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just we deviate a lot. Poets, I would say poets.
Yeah.
We mostly of like I was one of those poets. I would admit we mostly fight change. You know what I mean? We mostly fight change. We wanna be those dungeon guys, you know, hardcore. Those gone are those days. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Yeah, it
we
never
saw
did.
it didn't work. Like let's approach it in different manner, and it's going there. It's going there. Yabo. It's going there. So yeah.
How do you feel about the fact that Kwakwa does not have a facility? Not even enough facilities as far as the theater
Yo.
is concerned. Because I feel like a lot of artists are groomed from theaters.
Yo, that
Theatrical
hits.
work somehow
That hits
does the
home,
most. Yeah.
you know?
How do you feel that we don't have
Yeah, I wanted to.
platform where kids can actually express it?
Yeah, that hits home. You know.
It does.
We grew up where I was we were very I was fortunate to be part of the era that grew up from, you know, back in the days we would rather rent a outside garage maybe at your place
Yeah.
and have a youth club, you know. And when you're in that space you feel the theater mode and all that. You go home a fresh mind, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
We have facilities here. It's just that we are too ignorant to fight for our facilities, you know. Not to say we should go physically fight for our facilities, but we should. This is when you're asking me about factors of poetry. This is where we speak and say, hey, we want facilities.
Yeah,
There's a vandalized Putedichaba hall
Hall,
there.
yeah.
Like you go
It's falling
inside
apart.
there, you know, the architect, the structure, that was theater. It was meant to be theater, the stage, lights, everything. And we go study these things, mind you. Where do we want work? We go again and improve the economic of other provinces when we have the facilities here. You ask for a theater, they build a juvenile prison for kids. I don't know what message they're sending. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very challenging that we have to go out, and when you get there again, you still have to pay. You are exploited by agents. You still have to get manipulated and
Yeah.
all that. So we are saying, build us home. You know,
Yeah.
there's Mkuku theater already happening in Tabanchumaba. Like there's Mkuku there, a theater built
They
with
should know.
like yeah, you know, a shack, you know, like if theater about Dija Fats, you know. So build us a home. Create the home for your offsprings. Be the great house givers. You have facilities. You don't even have to go fight for a land and then restructure building from scratch. You know what I mean? All you have to do is just go
Voice it
take
out.
care of what we have and then work. You know what I
Work,
mean?
yeah, definitely.
So facilities are there.
Yeah, thank
They
you.
are just being vandalized.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I grew fond of arts recently. I've always wanted to be in the artistic part of life. I grew fond of that recently when I lost a very close friend of mine who was also part of. He actually, from high school, started off liking and wanting to be part of the artistic world.
Yeah.
It broke my heart. It's like I lost a part of me when he left, right?
Yeah, man, rest in peace.
What message do we have? Because our parents, they're somehow diminishing the idea of us wanting to go into the artistic world. What message do we have for kids out there that really wants to pursue a career in arts, but they are constantly discouraged to do that?
I think I would say that the core problem starts with our parents. You know what I mean? They think the creative space is still as hard as before. Like there's no money now. Hence we're trying to show. We preach money now. Like now we preach. It's not an evil thing to preach money and give financial education. But first, let's give the parents the financial education of the creative side.
Yeah, true.
Let's not try to make them understand, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who have to go pay the tuition fees. And
Definitely.
I, for one, if I don't understand something, I would want to clearly understand, you know, what am I paying for? You know, why you want to do this? How you going to get your return, you know, in
Yeah,
revenue,
definitely.
you know what I mean? So let's give these house givers a financial education of creative space.
Yeah.
That the reason your son wants to do this, is because there's school for music, there's school for drama, there's school for all these artistic genres you can think
Definitely.
of. The financial side are this. This is what is like. These are the chances.
Yeah.
Let's show them. Let's teach them first, so that they can know that what they're doing. I think we are the generation that's gonna be the parents that understands, because we wanted to go there. Our parents denied us that opportunity. So I
definitely.
think it's within change. Like everything will change eventually. It's just time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's give them time and financial education of the creative space.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, man, thank
now,
you
can
so
you please
much.
share your information where they can find you if they want any bookings?
Oh yeah.
Come over.
Man, it's Preacher Technique on Facebook. It's Preacher Technique on Instagram at Preacher Technique on Instagram. It's www.preachertechnique.co.za. My website is running. Just gonna launch it later on. I think when we get that site, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's where you're gonna get me. Just Google Preacher Technique, you'll get my information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're amazing.
Thank you so much.
Keep doing the great work.
It's okay.
Keep promoting the artistic part of our culture.
It's all
Yeah,
good,
thank you so
man.
much for joining us today.
Thank you
This
so much
was
for
Dina.
Yeah, this next piece is titled Pay the Poet. At some point in my life, I found myself stepping from one stage to the other, learning to inspire more than I desire. My supernatural instinctive words became an instinctive reminder of my Messiah, so I found comfort in nailing myself on Calvarial stages, crucifying my cons with poems my mind and eyes ceased to see, hence scribes. As for my tongue had no but, therefore refused to tell lies. Lies like, it is great being a poet, let alone being an artist. Art. Look at what you have done to me. You've drizzled me with eccentric chords. Now I'm synchronized between madness and my thoughts. For I've refused to pick up your call before. For I knew it was never gonna be a candy store for your people to dig deeper into their sack. And I'm sick and dying of living from applause and being told that I'm dope. Yes, I'm dope and I know it. From the one who blew that smoke off an incense before I got to this stage. My bills are choking me, for this dopeness cannot pay what's due. Art, you are a plant of your own kind. A kind that needs to be watered with penny of hope and maybe notes. You feed me knowledge I cannot fart. So I guess that's the only gaze that keeps me moving. From the bowl of thank yous I've eaten for way too long now. Pay me, art. Can't you see my words are amplified through my followers' reaction when I speak? Too many sins I've committed, from killing shows and go back home to my son Bukamuso. Present him a handful of promises but empty to his wishes. A fake smile with internal bruises, for I did not choose this. But let me save my tears, for tonight's supper has no beverages one can drink, and down this pap and poetry I eat. Exposure has bought me a mansion in my mind, landed some of my kind on the church street. So I wonder if art really exists, or it's just a state of mind. And as far as I know, Earth is no home for art. Our Father only arts in heaven. My people, do not forgive me if my poetry sits not well with you. Maybe you're just not a good company to make profitable sense of my work. Maybe these spoken words are not so fond of your revenue. If only you all knew how costly it is to update this software we use to vocabulate our poems. So I've chosen to plug my work on my bedroom walls, unplug my vocal cords so I don't respond to any calls. Isn't it ironic how I preach, teach, and tell, but never get to the top and eat with the nudges? Isn't it proverbial how this microphone knows it's not sweet at home? Pay the poet. Yeah, man. So let's pay the poet. You know what I mean? That's what I say. Pay the poet. One time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having
Shout
us.
out to Street Showbiz Live, you know what I mean? Shout out to QWA, shout out to Free State, shout out to everyone watching this, shout out to everyone who's been there, that's on this, all the production, you know what I mean? South Africa, it's what it is, you know what I mean? One side.
Is it good for you?